Hello, everybody. Welcome to Women in Retail Talks, the podcast where C-suite executive women in the retail space share their stories of professional growth, leadership development, personal journeys, and more. I'm Melissa Campanelli, the co-founder of the Women in Retail Leadership Circle, and we are a membership-based community of senior-level women in retail. Today, we're here with Crystal Landsem, the CEO of Lulus Fashion Lounge Holdings, Inc., also known as Lulus, the online fashion retailer known for trendy, stylish, and feminine apparel, footwear, and accessories. Crystal has served as CEO of Lulus, as well as served on its board of directors since March of 2023, after previously holding roles as co-president and chief financial officer. Prior to joining Lulus, Crystal had broad leadership roles across the consumer and technology industries, including at startups and organizations such as 11 Main, which is an Alibaba group company, and Walmart. We're thrilled to have her here. So welcome, Crystal.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so excited. We were just talking before about how we've been following your career, and we're thrilled that you have been able to make the time to do the podcast today. We have done some research a little bit about you, and we know that you've talked in your past about how both the experiences you choose in your life and the ones that you don't or haven't have helped shape your leadership. Can you talk a little bit more about this and share maybe an unexpected or challenging experience that you feel like transformed how you lead today?
Yeah, of course. And when I look back and reflect on where I am today versus where I started, and candidly, once I get past the disbelief that I never really set out to land where I have, I think every position that I've held prior to Lulu's has prepared me for every obstacle, every opportunity that I've come across. And I mean, even the work that I did before I graduated college, like Walmart, I worked for their distribution center and I was throwing boxes on a conveyor belt, for 6 years. But within that, I got the experience and critical skills that I'm still leveraging as a leader today. Everybody that I've worked for, everyone I've worked with has taught me something about who I want to be as a leader. In a lot of cases, I've also learned who I don't want to be as a leader. I think one of the biggest lessons for me that's come during rapid periods of change in retail and specifically in e-commerce has come post-pandemic. I mean, retail by its nature is an industry that's constantly evolving and consumer expectations are constantly shifting, technology changes, and you have to adapt quickly. I'd say that's the biggest lesson. During 2020, every year since then, retail has been going through constant changes and you have to learn to adapt. You have to rethink every assumption. And most importantly, you have to learn to change with your customer and stay fluid. One of our core values at Lulu's is to always evolve, and we laugh about it internally, but, embracing change is core to who we are, and we found time and time again that change, even when it's hard change, always brings opportunity to make your business stronger and internally to build those relationships with your team to make those relationships stronger. I think the last 5 years or so has really reinforced for me that the most important thing a leader can do is stay close to your customer also. We're
Mhm.
incredibly customer driven here. We listen to feedback constantly. I get teased a lot because I'll review customer exit surveys and reviews on products, almost every day because she will tell you what you need to do to make your business stronger. And we use that every day to guide our decisions. So I guess for me, a challenging period can strengthen leadership, your team. I think staying fluid, staying flexible, staying curious, and most importantly, staying humble and close to your customer.
Great, I love that. Staying humble is so important and understanding the customer and always following their lead. I love that so much. And we hear that a lot from our leaders that we interview. I would love to talk a little bit about your jump from CFO to CEO. I'm not sure how common that is. Can you talk a little bit about how you feel the role of CFO maybe helped you to prepare for the current role as CEO?
I've definitely heard that my path has been a bit unusual, and typically finance leaders don't turn into fashion retail company leaders. I mean, from when I started at Walmart, throwing boxes on a conveyor belt, all the way through college and starting my journey as a CPA, all of that made connections to, especially in pursuing my financial leadership roles with Alibaba, and it's all about networking and I think making connections with the people that you're with when you're with them. I mean, that's where I landed at Lulu's, and being on the audit team that worked for Alibaba got me that role with 11 Main, with Alibaba. Those connections got me to the founders at Lulu's, and, the rest is sort of history. I think
Mm.
I learned everything about best-in-class logistics from Walmart, and I didn't realize it at the time, but it set me up to add value at Lulu's right out the gate when I joined, which got me to my co-COO role, and while also being a CFO, I think the financial discipline that you learn from a CPA path also teaches you the language of business. And so it all has kind of come together and amalgamated into a bit of a, I know I hear a bit of a unicorn brain. It feels a little bit weird to say that out loud about myself, but I have that kind of creative mind. I love fashion. And I also really love what we do here in supporting women and being able to apply that expertise to, a CEO role. I mean, it's such a blessing, and I have so much gratitude towards it. And I really truly believe everything I've done up until this point has got me there. I joke about it internally where I'm like, I accidentally got promoted to CEO, but everybody that I've worked with has just invested in me and mentored me. And a lot of women talk about how hard it is. And it's true. It really is hard for women. And we don't have the same opportunities and we have to fight a little bit harder. But I feel so fortunate that everyone I've worked for, the men and the women, have all mentored me, encouraged me, supported me. The founders at Lulus, I was barely 30 years old, I think, when I met with them. And they're like, we think it's so cool that you're a finance executive and a woman. Like, come work for us. We think it's great. I've been very fortunate that everyone has invested in me and actually encouraged me to do things I didn't even know I was capable of doing along that journey. And so I feel very strongly about paying that forward and investing in the people at Lulu's and especially the women at Lulu's to give them those same opportunities because my experience has been so positive. So and then not the typical experience for women fighting their way to the top. I've been encouraged to get to the
Wow.
top even when I didn't know that I could do it. So I have nothing but gratitude for the people that have led me to this place. Let's say it's a lot of luck with a lot of hard work mixed in.
Yeah, of course. That's great. That's such a joyful, sort of moment there. Thank you for sharing that. It is interesting though. I'm just going back to the finance stuff. It's true that from my experience, the CFOs don't move to the CEO spot, but at the same time, we also hear a lot from our community about the importance of understanding financials if you want to move ahead in the company. We're actually thinking about even doing something about that, maybe putting together some kind of a mini course or something just on retail math or
I love
financial
that.
information, right? Because it's such an important piece. And I think if you want to move up in a company as a female, you probably should know this, even if maybe, I don't know, I don't have the statistics on whether or not women don't have this understanding, but it does seem like there's a lot of interest in that right now. So
I think it's important. I mean, you really do need to understand the fundamentals in the language of business. And I think, especially if you want to be in a CEO role, you have your CFO who's going to do the doing for you, right? And to be that financial expert. But you
right.
have to, I mean, your job is to balance resource allocation and prioritize. And if you don't understand the impacts of the decisions that you're making from a financial perspective, it just can make things a little harder. And so for
Yeah.
me, that came naturally, but I'm also, a closet creative and I love kind of both sides of the business. And so, but I think it's great. I think that every woman, whether professionally or personally, should have the financial acumen to be, to independently think about those things.
Yep. Perfect. That's so true. Um, so moving ahead, so Lulu's has grown a lot under your leadership since you've been there. Could you talk about some of the key priorities for the company right now and sort of where do you see the brand going in the next few years?
Oh, yes. One of my favorite topics, of course. So I'd say first and foremost, just continuing to strengthen Lulu's as the destination for getting dressed up and occasion dressing. Dresses have always been core to our identity and, proms, weddings, graduations, vacations. And we want to continue to own that space and also expand into more of life's moments. But second to that, I would say elevating the brand. We've always thought of Lulu's as attainable luxury. It's, modern, feminine designs and it feels special, but it's still accessible, and that we are not expensive or out of touch. Like part of our core DNA is being accessible and approachable. And our goal is to be the single destination that women are going to shop when they have a moment that matters and keeping our brand synonymous with feeling confident and put together. The third priority, I would say, is expanding our reach and something that I feel so strongly and passionately about. We've historically been primarily D2C, but more recently have been strategically growing through selective wholesale partnerships with retailers like Nordstrom, Dillard's, Urban Outfitters. Most recently, we're super proud to announce we're expanding our partnerships with Anthropologie and Victoria's Secret. And
Hmm.
two more major partnerships that are on the horizon that we're really excited to announce this year. We have this amazing group of women leading our wholesale team and putting our product out there in our customers' hands in other retailers where they can experience the brand in person has been definitely a passion, and we've been working towards this for many years. And I'm so excited to see that just materializing and growing. It's been wonderful to see.
That's great. So exciting. Have you ever focused on those areas before, or is it something totally new for Lulu's?
In, the early days, we had started with Nordstrom as a partnership, and we considered wholesale as more profitable brand awareness, and so we strategically kept it small and tight. What we found, though, is our customers are evolving in how they want to experience our product, and our goal is to be there and meet her where she is, whether that's social, brick and mortar, e-com, and D2C. I would say the last couple of years has been more of a priority to strategically and profitably expand in those areas and to get more brand reach and more customers who are shopping in real life versus digitally.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great way to look at it. Like you said earlier, it's customer first. So it's not a matter of, choosing a channel just to choose a channel. It's choosing a channel because you're trying to find, you're going where your customers are.
That's
So
right. Yep,
super,
that's right.
so obviously you're going through some changes now. As you said earlier, retail constantly changing. It can be challenging leading a team through growth and change. Can you talk a little bit about how you motivate and inspire your teams during these kinds of times?
Yeah, I'd say the last 5 years have been pretty wild for retail, and I think for Lulu's, it's been about transparency and vulnerability. I think that most people are motivated when they feel connected to a clear mission, when they have context in the decisions that are being made, and it's just been, I'd say somebody described it as what retail right now is like getting punched in the face on a regular basis, and I think when things get hard, you just have to be as transparent as you can possibly be. For us, we went
Mm,
public in 2021, and so it makes it a little bit harder for that radical transparency that we strive for, but we do share as much as we can, as often as we can. And in my experience, if people don't know the answer to something, they're going to find an answer, even if it's the wrong one, and that can make things even harder to manage. So the way that that comes to life in practice is that we have these quarterly all hands meetings where we're reviewing financial performance together. We're talking about business priorities. We also celebrate our wins as a team and we talk candidly about challenges that the business is having and where we need to improve. And what we found is people are less scared of the unknown. They're more empowered. They're excited to find ways to navigate like harder things together. I think also for me, servant leadership has always resonated with me. And I really stand behind the notion that if I'm not willing to do something myself, I wouldn't ever ask anybody else to do it either. And I think staying humble, staying grounded, it just creates a bond with your team and a trust. And if they know that you're in it together, anything seems possible to navigate. So I'd say it's twofold. It's vulnerability and transparency, and also just the concept of servant leadership, so that people know you're in it together. And for me, that's worked well. It's controversial, but, I would say it's been part of Lulu's success and just culturally who we are as a business.
yeah, I love that term, servant leadership. Actually, Kelly Cook, who's the CEO of David's Bridal, did a whole session on that last year at our summit, which was great on servant leadership. So I love that concept.
Yeah, I love that.
So jumping ahead, of course, we can't have a conversation right now around retail without discussing AI.
Yeah, of
It's
course.
such a big part of the industry, retail and technology together. Can you just briefly talk about how Lulu's is thinking about AI? How do you see it impacting your business or customers, or even how you deal with your teams, or anything that you feel like talking about?
Yeah, I think AI is incredibly exciting for retail. It has the potential to deepen how we serve our customers in just really impactful ways. We've been using AI since before AI was like the buzzword to use, and so sometimes we laugh internally about it. But I do think that we've come leaps and bounds over the last couple of years, and for us, we're exploring ways that it can help us analyze customer feedback more quickly, kind of streamline what we already do and what's core to our business, but to make it more efficient, identify trends faster, like a more personalized shopping experience. We're such a customer-driven brand, so these tools just help us better interpret customer signals. So, looking at reviews, we've done some work around summarizing reviews so that we can, I guess, get to the point a little bit faster, and then that guides what we do with our assortment, for example. We're looking at search behavior, purchasing patterns, streamlining and automating the way that we look at that information, and leveraging AI has been incredibly powerful for our team. And ultimately, we look at technology as a tool to make the experience feel more personal, not less, and that can be really challenging to navigate with AI, people wanting to take the human element out of everything. But for us, that human contact and making that touch point the best part of her day, or at least the easiest part of her day, we're looking for AI tools that can help us to do that without taking away that personal human connection and the community that we've built over time.
Great. I love that. That's great. A couple more questions. We talked a little bit earlier about You being, a female in fashion and e-commerce and some of the challenges. It sounds like you've had some great experiences. I'd love to instead kind of shift this a little bit to how you're supporting other women on your team. I'm sure you have quite a few females on your team. What sort of advice or do you give them or help to support them or maybe mentor them to grow into leadership roles in the industry?
Yeah, I think one thing that I've learned is that leadership doesn't look one specific way for everybody, and the approach, even for me across different people that I manage, it's not the same for each of them either. And one of the most frequent pieces of feedback I've received as a leader is that I'm too empathetic, or I'm too nice, or I care too deeply or too much. And I spent so many years trying to change that about myself and to be more like that, quote unquote traditional retailer. It just didn't feel naturally to me, and frankly, it just it hadn't worked, and I've found that we've been able to drive successful outcomes without me needing to try who I am, like, fundamentally as a person or as a leader, and my approach definitely hasn't come without challenges for sure, but it's also come with a lot of loyalty, shared passion, a common goal, and so I guess my advice would be identify who you are as a leader and find a place where that's going to resonate with a team. I think that the women that we lead at Lulus and who are leaders at Lulus, I think they look at this as a partnership and we're all kind of working towards this common goal. There's no yelling, there's no egos, and it's really a very special culture here that we've created. And I think in trying to change who I was, I found things started to break. And I'd say finding who you are as a leader, of course, like, continue to improve and get better and find your weaknesses, but, I think being true to who you are, that can still also be very powerful, and you don't have to try to be that standard traditional leader because it doesn't have to be that way, you just need to find your place and find your people.
I love that. Find your people. That's great. That's great advice. We love to talk about this at Women in Retail because we believe that, it's not just about you as a leader, it's about you as a whole person, holistically as a leader. So, can you talk a little bit about some practices or habits you use to help you stay, self-aware, to keep learning? Kind of how do you keep yourself fresh as a leader to be happy, I guess, and to continue day to day, being a happy leader?
I think it's finding time outside of work to connect with people, and for me, what that looks like is I have a friend group, and I've been close to these women since we were in elementary school. We've had a group text since group texts were a thing, and these ladies just keep me self-aware, they keep me grounded, they also are my fiercest supporters, and so it's, I think having that tribe and having that community of women that can build you up or also keep you humble if you get a little too, too confident in yourself. It's, I'd say in terms of self-awareness, it is keeping those connections alive and making time and space for that. We're I think we're all very, like, naturally type A hard workers and the grind can be very invigorating, but where I found myself as a better person and as a better leader is when I started to create space for those connections and connecting with these women. I mean, one of them is a detective in the Bay Area, and we have a doctor in this group, a director
Wow.
of healthcare. They're just and I have no idea what they do every day in their jobs, and I'm sure they would look at me and say, "What the heck do you do every day?" But I think staying connected and staying grounded just it keeps a passion alive too for work, and having something that's an outlet outside of work, but to still have these women that I can lean on and go to whenever I need some advice or even just like a sanity check of, "Hey, I did this and I don't feel good about it. What do you think?" And they can either give you candid feedback or, tell you, "Hey, don't you're overreacting, get over yourself." So that for me has been really important is just staying connected to these women. And they know everything about me, where I came from, how I got here, and I think having that just fierce support coming from my friend group has been instrumental in keeping my career going and keeping me motivated. When it comes to learning, I think just I'm a naturally curious person, and I think the team that we have here at Lulu's are all just, very intellectually curious, and they're constantly wanting to learn and change and do new things, and part of our core values. And so it's really hard to fall behind around here. Everybody loves to do new things and try new things, and so I'm definitely lifted up by the team around me.
Aw, that's great. I love the idea of your female friends and, knowing them since you were high school. I have a group as well, and it is nice to have a group of people you can always count on, no matter what.
It's so
So,
important. Yeah, it's so
yeah,
important, and I'm so grateful to still have those connections. I think it's more and more rare these days, and, just
yeah.
having women in your corner, I think that's really important as a female leader.
Great. Well, that's pretty much all we have time for, but it was so great to chat with you. I feel like I learned so much about you, Crystal, and the company, and I hope we can stay in touch and keep learning more about you as a leader and learning more about what Lulus is doing. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening. For more information on this podcast, please go to womeninretail.com/podcast for show notes. Women in Retail Talks is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, SiriusXM's Pandora, YouTube, and YouTube Music. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a few moments to rate, review, and subscribe. Lastly, if you're a female retail leader interested in joining our community at Women in Retail Leadership Circle, visit womeninretail.com/apply. Thanks, and until next time, this has been Women in Retail Talks.